Radio Zero is so honored to welcome a very special guest tonight, Chuck Platinum. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I appreciate being here with you tonight. It's great.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about. I don't even know where to start with you. I was looking at your bio, and you go way back.
Yeah.
Can you please take us back right from the beginning? Because I know you were very young when you got started.
Absolutely. Yeah, I basically, I was born into this craft. My father, I just got off the phone with him, actually. Happy Father's Day, Pops. You know, I love you. My father, the Honorable DJ Butch SOS. Basically, it started with my family. My family is very musically inclined. My mom, DJs, you know what I'm saying? She write raps and stuff like that. My father, you know, he's one of the biggest, you know, renowned house DJs out here. You know, he has a rich history in this music game himself. He is just like somebody that I was heavily influenced by. You know, he told me that what I used to do, and my mom told me the same thing, is that like when I would listen to music as a baby, that would make me sleep. So like loud music would actually put me to sleep, and I would, you know, rest and I would be, you know, when they were playing music if they was young. So, you know, it was a typical thing. I was born in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, where there was a lot of rich culture down there, and still is to this day. Grew up, was born on 10th Street between Avenue B and C and the Lower East Side of Manhattan. A lot of my family was down there, and you know, I used to go back and forth with my family as a kid, and everybody was musically, you know, into music. So music was always around me. I always had musical, you know, culture around me. So with my dad being a DJ, I used to go visit him, and, you know, he had all the equipment. He had the Technique 1200s. Like, those were the first turntables I saw. I didn't really know anything else. Like, so he had the 1200s, and he used to just DJ, and he would DJ with everybody. And we would just, you know, I would just be there mesmerized and watching him mix, and the music would be real loud, and, you know, he played everything. And he even, like, with the earlier stages of hip hop, he supported hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Because he would say, you know, a lot of those beats are sampled from old records. And, you know, what he did was, you know, he just would have me listen to different music. So as I got older, I'd say about 8 or 9 is when he first started letting me get on the set. And I would just get on the set, and I would have to come and visit him like on Saturdays. So what I would do is I would go to his house, and my stepmom's house, and in the Bronx, and I would go over there, and I would pick out all his hip hop records. So he had records like Audio 2, you know, like all the popular records like Milk is Chillin' and all of that, and you know, Dougie Fresh. He really liked Dougie Fresh. There was a lot of rappers that he liked back in the day, so he would have their records like EPMD. He was really a fan of their music, you know. So what I would do is I would, you know, he had all kinds of crates, but I would go to the hip-hop records, and I would kind of make my own little crate in his house, and I would start playing. So, you know, I didn't know how to mix or nothing like that. What he used to do is he used to just turn the equipment on for me because it was in his living room, and then he worked third shift. So he worked, and he still worked third shift till this day. He worked the same schedule for like 30 years. Yeah, he's in the post office, so, you know, he worked that same shift. Like, he's been in the post office for 33 years. So he's worked that same shift since I was like 7 years old. So, you know, so he would sleep in the morning, and when I had to come over there. So, you know, I would sit there. There was no video games or nothing at their house because my stepsister when I was coming over there, she had to be like 1 or 2, you know what I mean? So I would just go over there, you know, I would be sitting there. So what my stepmother would do is she'll wake my dad up, and then my dad would just turn on the equipment, and he'll put it on low, and then I'll mix and stuff like that. So he was living by himself for a little while. And I used to go to his house in Brooklyn. He lived like right by Marcy Projects, like right by where Jay-Z grew up, like literally right around the corner. Yeah, on Vernon Avenue, which is right there. It's the Myrtle Willoughby station in Brooklyn, and Jay-Z, Marcy Projects is right around the corner. Like Marcy Avenue is right there. So I had those influences too. And I used to just go to his house. So I was about 12 then. And like I did a mix with Positive K, I Got a Man instrumental, and Jay, Don't Walk Away. And he woke up out of his sleep and he was like, yo, now that mix right there, that was hot, you know. And so that I started getting known for my blends with my peers. So what I would do is I would just go to his house. Now we had something in common. So that morning he got up and he was like, well, you need, if you're going to blend like this, you need to learn how to catch the beat, and I'm going to teach you the technique. So he got 2 house records, and it's the record that actually Pitbull sample for it was the original house record, Nightcrawlers, that's what it's called. And that's where he sampled it from, and he had me play Nightcrawlers for like 6 hours, like going back, you know, back and forth, spinning back and forth. And then so then I was good with that. I started getting good. And he was like, you know, what do you think about like us starting a business together? And I was like really? You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to start a business?
How old were you then?
I was 12.
Okay.
When I started my first company, I was 12, so me and my father started a company called
that
Partners.
is incredible.
Yeah, we are like an actual business.
What was the name? I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
No, you're all right. No, I appreciate the accolade. It's called Partners Entertainment. So we've been open since March of 1992. I was 12 years old, and mind you, all of this started. Now this is just the DJing. Like there's layers. That's what I'm saying. Like there's so many layers to this story. So we started Partners Entertainment, and then my father opened a whole new world up to me because I didn't know that like he was actually getting paid to do this. So he started inviting me out to gigs, and I'm like, all right, you know what I'm saying? So he started opening up his life after a while because I earned it, you know what I'm saying? I'm showing him that I'm really serious about this. So now he starts opening, so we're starting to go I'm 12 years old, we're going to the law. We're going, you know, he introduced me to Mr. David Mancuso, rest in peace. My uncle and him was actually best friends. Like they're like the pioneers in the house and disco industry, you know what I mean? And so he started introducing me to these people. And then like his colleagues at work, they all knew him for the DJ because he used to DJ in Club 88 back in the day in New York. So they all knew him from his DJing and all that. So he started opening up his world. And what he would do is he would have me set up the equipment. So back then, like, everything right now is so freaking easy for people. All this USB and connecting. I'm like, y'all got it so easy. We had equipment, and if anything was wrong, if your setup was wrong, it's not going to cut on. So there was times where we'd be at parties and we had to set up, and my pops would be like, so what's the problem? And I'm like, Dad, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? He's like, you can't afford not to know. You have to know on the spot. And I'm like, oh shoot, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, and at one party I even cried, like, yo, this is crazy. But then we got it. Yeah. Then cause I was like, yo, like I didn't understand how important it was. But then when he was a person that was focused on clarity, you know, and back then with a lot of the analog equipment, sometimes there'd be a hum in there, sometimes it'd be some feedback, and we had to literally sit there and find that because my dad was so adamant about clarity that I'm that way to this day. So my music has to be clear. It has to be where you can hear it, where you can hear every little sound and drum and instrument like that. So that was the start of my DJ career, and we was doing parties, and I was helping them set up, and then after a while, what happened was me and my brother, shout out to Prince Newkirk, he was about to, we was really about to get into some other stuff, you know what I'm saying, some street shit. And, my mother asked my father to let me, like bring the equipment over here to my house and let him get into the music so you could keep him out of the streets. You know what I'm saying? Cause I was fighting people out there cause I had glasses and all that. So people just thought just because I had glasses on that I couldn't fight. and it was sadly, you know, that was a sad mistake on their part. So, you know, I started getting into a little trouble, not no crazy trouble, but, you know, to a little trouble. I got, some things happening. People was accusing me. I had started getting run-ins with the law early. So my mom was like, look, can you leave this DJ equipment at the house? You know, it seemed like you said he got an interest in it. So to save him from being in the hood, just give him the equipment and you could come over and you can make your tapes and do whatever you need to do, you know. And she kept her word, you know what I'm saying? My pops would come over every weekend and he would make his tapes. My moms would cook. People would come over. They'd be playing cards, all of this stuff. And we'd be DJing at the same time. My pops was in the house making tapes, and we, you know, then we started really becoming a team because it was a way for us to bond as father and son. Now we have something in common. And now it's a business, so it gives us a chance to practice. So we started practicing, doing routines, going back and forth, and that's like one of our favorite routines to do when we're, you know, doing gigs. People like that to see us go back and forth and stuff like that. And then we just made a business out of it, and we're still going to this day. You know, he actually has a residency in a club called Frank's Lounge, in Brooklyn. And he's been doing that, you know, faithfully every third Sunday for the last 5 years. Shout out to United Spirits and Mari and all of the people that make it run over there. And that's what we do, you know. So we go and we rip parties, and, you know, he's 62 years old and he's still out there relevant, you know, doing what he's doing. And, you know, like he said, man, I ain't stopping till God stop me. So that's the DJ side. Now the production and rap side, same thing. Everything started around the same time. It's crazy. You know, I have a brother. Shout out to Prince Newkirk. We met in 1989. We was messing around with the same little girl. She kind of had the hots for everybody in the neighborhood. He was standing across the street in front of his building. I'm over here. So we just looking at each other. And I walked over there and I said, yo, you messing around with Danielle? And he was like, yeah, that's my girlfriend. I said, nah, that's my girlfriend too. We was like 10 or 12, you know what I'm saying? We was little. Yeah. So, yeah, but instead of us fighting, we became best of friends and we both quit her, you know what I'm saying? Like, this ain't worth it, you know? And then, I found out later on that his uncle was, part of a rap group called DVS, which was standing for Devastatingly Vicious Sounds. And they was rapping and they was making these tracks, and he would have these tapes around his house because his uncle would give his mother, his sister, tapes, you know what I'm saying? So they would have these tapes around the house, and he made this beat called You're the One for Me. And, it had like a Michael Jackson sample in there. And I was like, yo, I said, your uncle did this? He was like, yeah, man, he got equipment and all of that in his house. I said, yo, I gotta meet this cat. You know what I'm saying? I was so mesmerized because when I was young and I'm listening, I was always into the production. So Marley Marl was one of my favorites. You know what I'm saying? Like all these people back in the day, you know, that was making beats. I was a credit watcher. I would get records and tapes, and I would just look at the credits, the Vance Wright that, you know, produced for Slick Rick, who was one of, you know, he come from your side of things, you know what I'm saying? But he a Bronx head too, but he, you know, so Slick Rick, one of my favorite rappers. So I was just, you know, listening, and I was like, yo, you know, I could do this too, you know. So I would freestyle with some of the older kids in the neighborhood, and I got respect like that. And then I started rapping, and in '92 we made it official. We started a group called Uptown Nation, which stands for Unlimited Potential Towards Our Right and Necessities and Never Answering Such Idiotic Nonsense. And we used to have a backwards S, but we was like, graphically, that might not look good. You know, we thinking about this at 12 and 13, you know. We was like, graphically, it might not look good, so we gonna change it to a T and say Never Answering the, you know, like acronyms and everything was kind of big back then, you know what I mean? Like, they used to do it with peace and you know, please educate our lost children every day and stuff like that. So I was real good at that. You know, I was real good at acronyms, and I came up with that. And then we started recording, and, you know, we just started making these songs, and his uncle was the producer, and we made our first song called What's on Your Mind, and it was a sample of Raisin in the Sun, and we did that. And then we just started making tracks, and I was having my own ideas, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause I'm telling him what I heard and what I would want to sample. So I'm like, damn, if I could tell him what I want to learn. So, you know, when I had that opportunity, it was like a year later, because he got moved out of his mom's house and got an apartment with his brother, right across the street. I'm telling you, history. Now I lived not too far from where hip hop started. Like, actually, my brother lives on that block on Cedar Avenue. Cool Herc started hip hop at 1520 Cedric, which is right there, like 3 blocks away. So we right there, and then, you know, my pops was around Marcy, and my Uncle Timmy, you know what I'm saying, which was my brother's uncle, he lived by Bronx River, by where Africa Bambaataa and them originated. Actually, my stepmother used to sing background for Africa Bambaataa, you know, in the Zulu Nation. Yeah, and then that's a connection. I'll tell you about that later, but that's what got me connected to Zulu Nation, amongst other things, because my uncle, Ahmed, he's one of the heads of Zulu Nation, so we didn't find that out until later, like our relationship. But yeah, so we was connected over there, so that's how I started producing. I was over there. I used to go to Bronx River Ave, and I used to make, you know, I was interested. So I told him one night, it was like right before my 15th birthday, I said, yo, I want to really learn these boards. I want to learn what I'm doing. I want to make my own beats. So he sat there, he taught me, you know, and I learned. And I got, you know, I kept producing. Then I did some stuff for people. You know, I went to the High School of Art and Design. I actually went to school with Mobb Deep and Fabulous. Mobb Deep, I was a freshman when they was leaving. So by the time they was leaving, they was making Juvenile Hell, their first album. So that was like real big in our school, you know what I'm saying? Because they was like our heroes. There was a lot of people that went to my school, like Tony Bennett. It was a few people that went to, but in my era, they was going out and I was coming in. So I didn't really have a relationship too much with them, but like, you know, like we knew of each other, you know what I'm saying? Cause I got into those rap ciphers early in school. So, you know, like shout out to Rest in Peace Prodigy, you know, like me and him was friends on Facebook, me and, you know what I'm saying? My brother Havoc, you know what I mean? Like, so they was like the OGs in there. And then I went to school with Fab. Fab was actually a grade ahead of me. And they used to, you know, have a polo on and everything. And, you know, like we was affiliated with the same people. I didn't really get up with Fab too much because they had their own, like, clique in school. But he was there. I remember him being there. And then, like, that was 95. And, you know, then me and my brother, we got national acclaim. Our first national exposure, we was on Showtime at the Apollo with Steve Harvey. And that aired on Channel 4, NBC. That was in 95. That came on TV in February of 95. And that's how we started. Like, that's where my popularity began. That's where, at the time, I was named Chuck Smooth. And that's when I started getting recognition for what I was doing, because I was on national TV. You know, I met Teddy Riley. I met Nice and Smooth. I met Brian McKnight. That's when Brian McKnight first came out. I met Men at Large. They was out back then. Blackstreet, when Teddy Riley had moved on to Blackstreet. And we had met all these people. We actually met Teddy Riley in the street because the Apollo is right by St. Nick Projects, and that's where Teddy Riley grew up. So he was just going to visit his people, but they was performing on Showtime at the Apollo. I think Blackstreet was actually on that show that we was on. And that's when we started getting national acclaim. So everybody saw that. Everybody saw it. Everybody, because at the time, I was 16 when that came out. When that show, I was 16 going on 17. So that's when I started getting like fame. That's when people really started knowing and they seen us, because we didn't get, you know, back on Showtime at the Apollo back in the day, if you wasn't good, you was getting booed. So when we told people we went on the Apollo, they was like, yo, y'all ain't get booed, right? So I was like, nah, but you got to watch the show. So as they seen in the show, we had got standing ovations on the show. You know, like people was really feeling us. We did a song called Lyrical Format, which was a dope, like we had a Roberta Flack sample in there, Back Together Again. So that was a real popular song. And we just did you know, our bars was always next level anyway. Like if you go to Uptown Nation on SoundCloud, if you look us up, you'll see the picture of our new single, which is Trap. And then you'll hear like our stuff from like 92. Like if you listen to our stuff from 92, like we didn't sound like 92. We sound like today. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We basically, our music, like you could still play our music today. Like our music is very relevant. Like even the bars, it don't sound like how it did in '92. Like we always knew we was kind of like the better than a lot of people out there, but we was kids, so you know what I mean? Like we had a lot of people approach us about deals, but I knew early because we had sent the demo to Uptown, but they rejected us. But I thought they was rejecting us because they didn't want the music. But after a while, as we see, Uptown was defunct after a while. So they probably wasn't accepting. They knew back in '93 that they wasn't going to be accepting no more acts because nobody else got signed. So, yeah, back in the day, I thought that they was rejecting us because they didn't like the music. But, you know, time has shown that that was different. So we did that. We was on Video Music Box. We started getting, like, TV appearances. We was going all around New York performing at different venues. And then my producer, he moved to Cortland, New York, which is way upstate. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of was like, damn, you know, that was our producer. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, now what do we do? You know, by this time, we were like 18, 19.
Sink or
so
swim.
It's like, okay. Yeah, because it was like we did all of this, and now you left. You know what I'm saying? We wasn't mad, but it was like, okay. So now I'm forced to like, all right. So what are we gonna do from here? Do we quit or do we continue on? So we had too much momentum at that time to quit. So what I did was, you know, I created my company, Novocaine Multimedia. You know, at the time it was like Novocaine Records, which I still have a subsidiary that. Within the company, I don't sign people. Like, that's just so I can do my business for my records independently. You know what I mean? One day, I think I'm going to sign somebody, but I'm not ready for that. I'm still not ready for that yet. You know what I mean? I like to be the coach, but like legally on paper, I don't want to be responsible for anybody's career just yet. And I'm still leveling up. You know what I mean? So, but I've been responsible for a lot of people getting to places and stuff like that. So anyway, yeah. So, you know, I had to come up with Novocaine, and, you know, at the time I was a very ambitious but inexperienced business person, you know what I'm saying? I just did partners and we was doing stuff for ourselves, but now, you know, opening a label and what I seen at the time, I was like, yo, I really, you know, want to put other people on. So I had different people that I was courting from like DC, you know, I was getting people from outside areas, down south, stuff like that, but it never transpired because I was a kid. I didn't have no money. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was just working a regular job, you know, but I wasn't making, like, in a way, I was making, like, $7 an hour back then. That was big money for an 18-year-old, you know? So I was like, you know, so I was just doing that, but, you know, it was big dreams. And then what I decided to do was, you know, I figured it out. My daughter's mom actually started the company for me. And, you know, when things didn't work out with us, she kind of fell back from it. So even then, like, you know, I had to figure things out. I sacrificed a lot of time just figuring things out. You know what I'm saying? I knew that I could have probably, like, sold and went to a label or something like that. We had the talent, we had the potential, we had the beats, we had the music, but I was more focused on making sure that we kept our own rights. You know what I'm saying? And that we, you know, if we're making this talent, I don't see myself. I know y'all offering probably these $1 million up front, but I don't want to owe anybody because if the relationship goes sour, I don't want to be like going into legal battles and can't release my music. And this is a lot of stuff that's happening today, that I was focused on a lot of other things back a long time ago. And that's why, you know, I'm still relevant to this day because things that people wasn't thinking about in the early 90s, like MP3s and how, you know, computers are going to overrule all of this analog stuff. And, you know, people were laughing at me back in the day. You understand what I'm saying? Like when I was using FL Studio in 98, when it was just FL Fruity Loops 1, and, you know, and people was laughing at me. Now, mind you, I told you I started on the analog stuff. But they didn't pay attention. They just like, oh, you on Fruity Loops? You like that digital stuff, huh? And I said, yo, this is going to be the wave of the future. Y'all need to get up on it now because people are going to stop using those fucking floppy disks. You know what I'm saying? Because floppy disks don't have no space on there. And the reason why I'm using a computer is because it has a hard drive. So you can save it and you ain't got to worry about the shit being erased and all of that. So these are kind of things as 18-year-old, and this is what separated me from everybody else. That's why even in this game now, like, I look at a lot of people, and there's a lot of stuff that they're just getting to that I'm like, oh my God, if y'all would have figured this out years ago, you know, I just wasn't in that physical place to, you know, to really do it. But I'm like, I figured that out already. Like, in 98, we was using MP3s and stuff like that. And that's how I was making my tracks and how I was chopping. I was like, oh, this is a lot easier than sitting here and trying to do this and get this floppy this and do all of that. So I wanted to, after a while, I just was mastering my craft from like 98 to like 2003, you know, just mastering my craft. And then what happened was, I had learned that on my computer, my daughter's mom had gave me her computer, you know what I'm saying? So I took her computer and learned that I could get these free programs online. This is when there was a lot of person-to-person sharing. And I mean, this was a sweet part of technology because at that time you could try all kinds. They wasn't worried about no licensing because it was early.
Right.
So I had like Acid, I had Cubase, I had all these programs early because that's what we was doing. We was sharing programs. So I had that, and then I learned that I could record on the computer mic. And I'm like, oh snap! Yo, I could
new doors opening.
So I don't need to. Yeah, so I'm like, oh, I don't have to get all this big equipment. I can just record right here. So, you know, it wasn't the greatest sound, but I understood early, like, because I was making different wave sounds on AOL and people would be wanting my waves because I was learning how to paint and put things together. So I was doing it. You know what I'm saying? Because they used to have wave programs. You know what I'm saying? So I was just learning how to do that early, so I just transferred that into production. So I'm starting to put all these crazy beats together, and, you know, like the first person that was in my circle, an artist that I work with by the name of Ruck, you know, from the Bronx, he, you know, he heard one of my CDs, and he was like, yo, I want to work with you because the beats that I'm using, I don't really like them too much. But these beats are fire because he was staying with my brother, and I had gave him my brother's CD because we was going to work on something. And my brother wasn't really feeling my beats at the time, you know, because I was just, you know, like starting up again, trying different sounds. But that soon changed too, you know what I mean? So, you know, we, you know, so I just started making music with different people, and the word of mouth started going around, and it, you know, it led me to meeting, the first person that I started like collaborating with professionally was, my man from Midi Mafia, you know what I'm saying? You know, the Swift from Midi Mafia. And at that time, they was just getting notoriety off of 50 Cent making, 50 Cent's, 21 Questions. So, you know, they invited us to Sony Studios. We was there. They was playing like the original joint with before Nate Dogg got on the record and playing it, you know, 50 Cent referencing the song. And we just had a good time, and I built a good relationship with Swift, and we, you know, that was like my first shot. That connection happened because my brother Camacho, shout out to him, he, you know, he was getting like a deal with, he was dealing with some artists. They was about to get signed to Elektra at the time. And, you know, he was just like, yo, you know, this dude, Chuck Platinum, you know, he got this artist, you know, he's dope, and I really want us to work with him. It's just that relationship didn't transpire but we had all kinds of, then people just started noticing, and then they wanted to manage and all of that. But by then I was making my own mark. Like, we was doing different talent shows in the city, and, you know, I was putting, you know, things together. And then one day, my brother, my boy Black, he had his sister's baby father, we was all cool, and they used to listen to me making beats. So he used to come down, smoke, you know, we used to smoke mad weed, sit in my crib, and I make beats, and they be rapping over them, and people would just come over and get on the mic. I throw them on the track. Like, I was Kanyeing it early, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would just throw people on the track, and, you know, this shit would just come out, and they would be amazed because what I would do is during the day, we would smoke, but I wouldn't mix the tracks until everybody left. So I would smoke, and then I would go, and because I had my own apartment, my mom had moved to Virginia, by then, so people would just come over, I would cook, and then they would, you know, we smoke. I had mad weed on the table, we just light up and just, you know, just create. And then, so by then I had a whole catalog of artists, so they was using these joints to get opportunities. There was a lot of opportunities that was born from different, we basically was like, we started a lot of the Bronx movement of people that's even coming up to this day. So like I was telling you, my brother had introduced me to somebody who was doing a talent show called the Bronx Idol. And they was like, yeah, there's going to be some very special guests there. So we had to, anybody who was interested, all they had to do was call a number because we had already went to the meeting. So I get to the Bronx Idol, and who's the special guest? AG from Digging in the Crates.
Oh my God.
And I was like, and I'm sitting there like, holy cow,
yes.
I said, I bought Soul Clap, man. I bought your record, bro. Like, I remember running the Music Factory and hearing it on the radio with Mr. Magic and all of them. And can I get a Soul Clap? And then finding out that you guys was from the Bronx. I'm like, y'all are like God. And he was real, like, humble. So me and him built a relationship where we still talk every day. You know what I'm saying? Like, AG is my brother. We actually, we have a label together called Megatron Bronx, and, I'm on his album. His new album actually come on Friday called Taste of Ambrosia, and I'm on it. I actually was the A&R for that project, but we'll talk about that a little later. Yeah. You know what I mean? But yeah, so I built that relationship with AG, and that's what I learned, like, just keeping good relationships. And with AG, I met, Rest in Peace Party Artie and, all of these different people that was in the game. And, I just started gaining more and more notoriety. So by then, that was like 04, 05. And then I moved out to California to the Bay Area right when the hyphy movement was starting. So, I went out there and started networking quick. And I got with my homie, his name was Basilini. And he was starting up a label out there in the Bay. And he was like, you on fire, kid. Like, and Baze, he knew, like, having a New York artist under his belt, he could really do some big things, you know what I'm saying? So I went with it, like, I went with it. I was like, all right. So I signed an album deal with him. And with that, I wound up opening up a couple of shows for Too Short out in Reno. And, we showed, shout out to Too Short. He was cool. I was out there. I met Mr. Fab and all these different Bay Area artists. And really, really, because my nephews was out there, this is when I got married the first time. And, my nephews was out there. They was young. They was like 17, 18. So they was really into the hyphy movement. And they thought I was cool because they seen me professionally doing rap. So they introduced me to their world, and I got crazy heavily into like the E40s and the B Legits and everybody out on the West Coast. So I was very well spanned in hip hop then, and I did that out there, and then I came back to New York, and my boy DJ Swerve, which is a longtime collaborator, he was like, what do you think about doing online radio? I'm like, I think that's a good idea because we have a DJ squad called Crazy Miles Squad DJ. It's a bunch of us DJs that's, we had a coalition early. We started that back in like 94. And he was like, what do you think about doing a radio show? And I was like, yeah, that's cool, man. He was like, yeah, we could do it because my man Kid New, which is, he was an apprentice of DJ Kid Capri. He already had a show. He was doing it at the Matrix Studios on Tuesday nights. You know what I'm saying? So we went up there a couple of times to see New, and New was like, y'all should start a radio show. It's cheap. Y'all could get, buy some airtime and do what y'all do. So we was like, that's cool, man. So we had 3 people that was involved at first, but then that person fell off early, so it was just me and Swerve, and we was doing our half and half, and then that's when Crazy Mom Squad Radio started. And Crazy Mom Squad Radio, we started big from the gate. Like our very first interview was with Tretch from Naughty by Nature. You know what I'm saying? Wow. So we had Tretch. I got a crazy freestyle, and the freestyle is still on MySpace. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to see if I can download it and get it down so I can put it on my SoundCloud. But he gave us a crazy freestyle, and we interviewed everybody. I'm talking about DJ Webstar, Warren G. I mean, we interviewed Rock from Helter Skelter, Smith and Wesson, Styles P. I mean, we was interviewing Ice-T, DJ Scratch, DJ Premier. I mean, we Dragon, all these different people. We just because we made this move and we had this platform and we was just getting better. So we did that for like, I think we're still in syndication out on the West Coast, but we did that for 8 years. You know, we did that 8 years strong. Long. We did a really good run. You know, and the only reason we stopped is because I had moved to Connecticut, and my man Swerve was working with one of our mentors, and he teaches like troubled kids how to DJ. So like where he's at the facility where he works at, the New York Knicks built a $150,000 music studio, and my boy pretty much runs it. You know what I'm saying? And he teaches kids how to DJ and you know, and produce and stuff like that. So, you know, and that's what we do. We just dedicated, you know, our life to hip hop. So yeah, we did that for 8 years, and then I was not really rapping too much in between that. I was focused on doing some other things. So during that radio run, I was just trying to master being on the radio, and we got a lot of fan base from that. And then I just started learning how to, you know, extend myself and just do different things. And, you know, within the Matrix Studios, I did everything. I was on the radio, but I was also the program director. You know, I was in the studio. I was an audio engineer. That's the first time I started to learn how to run Pro Tools and other DAWs and stuff like that. And I did that professionally. I mixed a lot of people's records and stuff like that. So that's what I did. You know, Matrix Studios is always family. Anytime I do an interview, like somebody big, they'll call me. Like I did interview with Pete Rock and Buck Wild from Digging in the Crates and all these different people. So it's just been a blessing. Like it was just blessing after blessing. And then I did then in 2011, I started, you know, I was thinking, because I was a little older, I was like, damn, you know, I haven't really been rapping like that. So I wonder if I could come back and start rapping again. So this was when Twitter was really popping. I put out there that I was making I'm going to come out with an album and I'm going to produce it called I Am Legend. So
yes,
that was me getting into my rapping again. And I did that, and everybody wanted to be on that project. Like people was hitting me up. The only one that I asked to be on that project was Sonya Blade. And I was so honored to have her in the studio. And she just came to the studio. She recorded it, and then she brought it to me so I could mix it in the studio. And, you know, she became a big fan, and I did that. And, then I just continued, doing projects over the years. I got like 8, 9.
I know. You got incredible discography.
Thank you so much.
I just had to say that.
I love it. You know what I mean? And I just started doing music to I Am Legend and I Am Legend 2, and then I did the definition of a hood scholar, and then I did the Love Hip Hop mixtape, which, you know, I wanted to make with my man Joe Cool, who, you know, I wanted to make a real mixtape, because I think like people these days, they call mixtapes, you know, where you just dropping records and the DJ may say something on it or not. So I just wanted to, you know, which is that made that a series. Actually, I'm working on Love Hip Hop 2 right now. You know, and just a series of real mixtapes, scratching, mixing, and doing it with the nostalgic songs and making something new out of it. So it was cool. So I was doing that, and I just started branding Overcame. You know, I just started going all over the place and, you know, meeting people and, you know, starting with the underground and meeting a lot, and going that route, I wound up meeting a lot of celebrities anyway.